All right, we're going to get started, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. It got quiet before I even turned the microphone on, so I appreciate that. My name is Freddie Coffey. I'm the Director of Digital Marketing at JumpStart. I am, once again, like I said, very excited to welcome you here tonight for Founders Unfiltered, one of my favorite nights of every month or every quarter or however often we do these things. I am even more excited to introduce my colleague, dare I say friend, to share the stage with me tonight. So let's get right into her bio so you know who I'm going to be talking to, and so we can get this thing started. So Camille Genise Heard is the co-founder and CEO of FELOH, a conscious and inclusive social marketplace just for beauty. She's led FELOH through idea, market validation, and product development, and is currently working with her growing team to scale the company. Additionally, as entrepreneur in residence at JumpStart, Camille serves her startup clients by applying a unique perspective to the player-coach dynamic as she makes connections within the entrepreneurial community. Camille also services the Urban League, the President's Council, the Hispanic Business Center, and ECDI in efforts to support founders of color and build up Cleveland's Black and Hispanic startup community. And if that wasn't enough, Camille is also the founding director of Futureland, an annual multi-day conference celebrating the diversity in tech, arts, and culture in Northeast Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Camille Genise Heard to Founders Unfiltered. Oh, why, hello.
Well, thank you. Good to see you again.
Have a seat. Get comfortable. We didn't let you bring a drink up here, so
No,
we're getting real serious. I'm so excited to interview a coworker. I know you mostly as an entrepreneur in residence at JumpStart. I know of your entrepreneurial story a bit, but let's talk about your startup. Let's start right there with the startup in FELOH. Give us that 60-second elevator pitch.
All right, you're really testing my entrepreneurial skills right off the bat. But FELOH, you can think of FELOH as a beauty ecosystem for the new age beauty lover. So our job is to really champion rising beauty brands and really empower the new age beauty lover with community and inclusion. And in our ecosystem, our app is like the core. It's like the nucleus. So our beauty lovers, they download our app, they earn these things called Curl Coins. They can shop from really awesome brands and connect with each other in the digital space, but also in real life too.
So I'm looking over here at like these shoes and this necklace and everything, but what inspired you to create this company?
Yeah, well, FELOH's journey, or my journey with FELOH, it's definitely been a rather long journey, but one that was inspired by my own experiences. So back in undergrad, I met this really awesome person. Her name is Jacqueline Barron. Jacqueline and I, we were freshman year roommates at Penn, and we always talked about, just different ideas and whatnot. And during that time in undergrad, we both were going natural. So for those that are not familiar, we both ended up cutting off our chemically straightened hair to embrace our natural hair texture. I, being more of the, experimenter, dove right in. Jacqueline, on the other hand, she was struggling a little bit, but we found that our conversations really helped inform, our journey together. And that was like the seedling that sparked FELOH. But then over the years, after really learning about emerging trends in the beauty industry at large, we started seeing, okay, people are creating products now. They're selling products directly to consumers online. There's an emerging path for entrepreneurship in this space, and there's also an emerging amount of content creators in this space, and those content creators were democratizing how people were finding out about these brands. And we were like, okay, we were playing around with this idea, but if we can bring all of this conversation and community into one place, we can really create a great path for these rising brands to get their word out there.
So I will admit, I don't know a ton about the beauty industry.
It's okay.
My knowledge spans basically an episode of Project Runway that I saw once and TikTok videos of people flipping Nike shoes for profit. But I have to imagine, just like any industry, that it's incredibly competitive and that there are significant challenges. So what are some of the challenges for you in building a digital marketplace in an industry like this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think there's going to be all startups have challenges, particularly with marketplaces. So not even in the beauty space, but with marketplaces, you always have the chicken and the egg. Do you go for the part of the market first that is, the one end of the market for us, the beauty brands? Do you have to have a robust number of them before you can really tap into the other side of the market, the community? But all marketplaces, they'll have to really figure out how to balance their attention to make the economics of a marketplace work. I do also think, particularly for us in our space, there are investors out there, but many of the investors out there, one, are not as aware of how much money goes in and out of the beauty industry in the beauty world. So one thing that has been challenging for us is to really communicate, the value of this largely male-owned industry, but largely driven by women and women's dollars.
So have you sought VC investment or other types of equity investment for FELOH?
Yeah, so our path for really funding FELOH, it started with ourselves. So Jacqueline and I, we invested in the company to get it off the ground around 2018. And around that time, being an entrepreneur, being in the space, I really had to go through a learning curve myself to figure out how the startup world actually works and how things get done. And very quickly, I found that people with connections get access to capital way more quickly. So venture capital is still and probably will always be largely driven by who you know and not necessarily who you are and what you do. I do think it's changing slightly, but I was in for, an awakening when it became really challenging to, knock on these doors and prove that FELOH is something that is worth investing in. And so one piece of advice that I heard early off in our journey was always figure it out. Just figure it out. And so when we started figuring it out, we started leveraging our value in different ways to bootstrap in stronger ways. And so at this point in time, we have, some investors, but we still largely and still bootstrap the company.
It seems like you're pretty well connected, though. I mean, in all the organizations that you are involved in and that sort of thing. So did you leverage networking, and local resources that you knew about already to access those funding opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really got our start getting into the startup world through accelerator programs. So accelerators and just going after non-dilutive capital, grant funding, pitch competitions, anything that was out there, we literally created a formula to apply to a lot of different things. And some of those things came through and it kept us going forward. So absolutely, we had to be really, really diligent with tapping into resources like JumpStart and, other tech ecosystems that were designed to support us.
You can ask her for that formula during the networking portion after the event. One of the things that we like to talk about on Founders Unfiltered is challenges of just launching the company. Was there anything that you found surprising from a difficulty side? And was there anything that you found maybe surprisingly easy?
Yeah. Oh, goodness. There were a lot of things that were difficult. I'm the type of person, though, when I think when I make up my mind to do something, I see it through. So for me, and even now still, there's ups and downs every single day, but my eye is very much on the longer vision. But being a non-technical founder, so I am not an engineer, I'm not a computer scientist, I am a person with a vision. I am the visionary. And to create something that is from thought and bringing it into this reality requires a lot of energy, tenacity, just emotional endurance. So I knew that, but you don't really know until you're in it. So that was definitely one challenge that all entrepreneurs continue to face. I also think, and it still surprises me, a lot of decision making around funding is by people that are not entrepreneurs too. And so venture capitalists, many of them may or may not have any in-depth entrepreneurial endeavors that they've gone through themselves. And so to really have individuals, and not, there's all different flavors of human beings, so there's all different flavors of venture capitalists, but to have people that probably will never experience the lowest of the lows of entrepreneurship tell you about yourself and about your business is tough, and you really have to learn to eat the meat and spit out the bones and keep it moving. So that still is a little tough sometimes, but I would say one of the easier parts, surprisingly, were the one side of our marketplace, the independently owned beauty brands, and how excited they are to be a part of us and how they are finding their ways to us without us doing a lot of legwork marketing. And so that's definitely the easier side of our market. But I found that me as an entrepreneur, even though I'm in a different sector of entrepreneurship, I still resonate with them on their entrepreneurial journeys, getting their beauty products out there. So that has been surprisingly easy, and I'm really thankful for that. Our customers are excited about us.
That's awesome. I want to get a little personal with you. We don't have to get into your meat and bones diet over there, but like many of the entrepreneurs that I have talked to on Founders Unfiltered, and like myself, you are a Cleveland boomerang. What took you away? What brought you back?
Yeah, so I left for Cleveland for college. And at that point in time, I was adamant and determined to never come back. I really could not fathom coming back to Cleveland. But I repped Cleveland so hard always. And Jacqueline, if she was here right now, she would very much agree. But yeah, so I left for college. From there, I was in North Carolina for grad school. From there, I got my first and very last corporate job in Tampa, Florida. But during that time in Tampa, I was in a completely different industry doing something that I probably will never do again, in a work environment that was rather not healthy, and I quit. I literally quit. I knew I was going to quit. I didn't know I was going to quit that day, but I quit to pour full-time into FELOH. And so what brought me back to Cleveland was my support system. So I literally could not rationalize staying in Florida for any reason, but more than that, I didn't have any family there. So I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna go full time into my entrepreneurship, I need to be amongst the people that can support me and just, be a little dependent again. And so that's what brought me back. But ever since I've been back, Cleveland has a little twinkle on it, and I'm really inspired by the city.
You touched on this a little bit earlier, but when you mentioned that you're not a technical founder, but it's a tech business. Talk about that winding path to tech entrepreneurship and the kind of unconventional way that you ended up here a little more.
Yeah, so well, people always ask, what did you study entrepreneurship? Did you get a degree in business? And the answer is no. I studied medical anthropology. So I thought I was going to be a doctor. Then I learned that I don't really want to do that. After undergrad, I did what most college students do when they don't know what they're going to do, just go back to school. And so I got into a health policy and management program at UNC Chapel Hill. I also got into a PhD program at Case, and I turned it down because I didn't really want to do epidemiology, but I was very much in the healthcare space. But when I had, it was like a summer. It was, I think, the summer in between my first to second year in grad school. I sat down and I just told myself, I'm going to take every idea that I have in my mind and I'm going to write it down and I'm going to choose one of these ideas to pursue. I literally had a meeting with myself. I had a meeting, meeting me. And I told myself that, nobody is going to tell you to take any idea seriously. And who am I to not believe in myself? Who am I to not trust the things that, came to me in my mind? And so I knew that, one of those businesses, the concept was FELOH. It was not, it didn't come out as that when I wrote it down. But I told myself that, this is something that I should really give a shot. And yeah, ever since then, it's just been a really big learning curve. And now I have honorary degrees and everything.
You mentioned your support system that you have here. How does being an entrepreneur affect those relationships with friends and family?
Yeah. So before I really started networking and plugging myself into the greater, entrepreneurial ecosystem, I didn't have a lot of entrepreneurial friends. I had a lot of friends, or some friends, and it definitely, I would say, entrepreneurship can feel like a very lonely journey. It can feel very much, even though you are out here attracting people to your team. And, there's just certain things that a founder will only experience themselves. And it's really, really hard to communicate that to people that have never done it. So, my parents, I'm an only child, and they love me so much. But it was really hard for them to, kind of see me, quote unquote, struggle because, I got good grades. I, got a good job and had all of these, accolades, that society would praise. But the things that I chose to do were really difficult, and it was really difficult for them to connect with me. Same with my friends. But now that I feel, I've gotten some years under my belt to really frame my mentality, and I have a greater support system of other entrepreneurial friends. We, have really cathartic conversations with each other where we can, just kind of unload and relate to each other, and that is very, very helpful.
How about your relationship with yourself? So, I feel like everybody's going to go home and have a meeting right now, like after this, right? So, since that moment that you talk to you and moving forward, what's that like? You're involved in so many things, not with FELOH and with JumpStart and with all these other organizations and with FutureLand and all these things. Like, where's the balance there? And some people thrive off of that, and some people need to just lock themselves in a closet for an hour and experience total silence. Like, where are you with you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So despite popular belief, I'm actually an introvert. I like to vibe with Camille. I like to sit amongst the trees and listen to music. So for me, I've learned that I really do have to have that balance for myself to let my mind be off by myself. And that is where I find when you are able to kind of quiet your mind and just kind of be in the flow of whatever it is. And for some people, it's actually music. For some people, it's yoga. For some people, it is being amongst other like-minded people. But for me, it's usually walking in one of these parks with my music, turning my brain off, and then that's when I feel like I'm most connected with myself. And when I'm most connected with myself, I have even more ideas. I have clarity. I have solutions that just come to me. And it's just, I think it's really something divine. But yeah, you definitely have to find what that connection is for you.
So let's talk about those communities that you're working in and the community building that you're doing in your work at JumpStart. Let's start with how you got connected with JumpStart. So you were an entrepreneur, and you were a client before you became an entrepreneur in residence. How were those connections made, and how did you get started?
Yeah, so I moved back to Cleveland in 2018, and I'm not gonna lie, Freddie, I did not know JumpStart. I did not know, but I was fresh, hadn't been in Cleveland for a minute, but I think it was in 2020, I got into an accelerator program, and it was based in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Still had nothing to do with Cleveland. But one of the advisors was, I believe, one of the JumpStart co-founders, or like really, really, and I forgot his name, but he was like, Camille, if you're in Cleveland right now, you have got to get connected to JumpStart. And so he kind of handheld me, walked me over, and then I applied, and then I met this really awesome person who's now my coworker named Chris Smith, and then I was assigned my very own entrepreneur in residence named Ron Stubblefield, and that for me was my introduction into JumpStart and really seeing that, hey, there's actually a network here of human beings in organizations that want to help people like me do whatever it is that I have in my little mind. And so it was really cool to see that.
So I've said entrepreneur in residence. You've said entrepreneur in residence, EIR. What is an entrepreneur in residence? Like, what the heck is that? What do you do?
Yes, so that's a really good question. Well, an entrepreneur in residence is typically going to be somebody with an entrepreneurial background. They're an entrepreneur in the moment, or they might have had other entrepreneurial endeavors that they've exited, and they exist to serve other entrepreneurs on their journey. And so for me, what that looks like at JumpStart is I have a variety of clients that are tech founders. They are minority tech founders, women tech founders, and I am a resource to them. So I help them figure out what those next steps are in their business. Sometimes it's just like a therapy session, honestly, but sometimes it's like, okay, let's really look at these customer demographics. Everyone can't be your customer. So it's really finding out, what that entrepreneur needs, and lending my experience in the form of, advice and mentorship.
What's like the primary challenge that you're seeking to solve for your clients, and like the unique perspective that you bring?
Yeah, I think the unique perspective that I bring, and honestly, it probably has more to do with believing in yourself than it does with some of the technical things. I think the technical things, you can always learn stuff. You do have to be coachable, but I think that is something that I know I had to instill within myself, and I do that with my clients. And it's like, if you really, there's going to be so many people along your entrepreneurial journey that will not get it. They don't see it. They're going to poke holes in it. And having that one person that can speak life to you, into you, and about you in rooms that you're not in right now is really, really powerful. And that's my secret sauce.
So you work across all these different organizations: ECDI, Urban League of Greater Cleveland, President's Council, Hispanic Business Center. There's probably a half a dozen more that I'm not saying. How are you leveraging the power of all those community organizations to bridge gaps and create community? Maybe not just with the entrepreneurs that you're working with, but throughout Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of support here in Cleveland, but there hasn't always been a lot of, I guess, connective tissue between all of these different movements and communities. And so my job really with those organizations is to be some of the connective tissue. It's not just me, but to help make sure that if there are opportunities that are arising for entrepreneurs that I'm aware of, that they know about it to share with their clients. Or for example, with Futureland last year, really making sure that these organizations understand how they can take part and understand how their communities can take part too. So it's just really being thoughtful and intentional to draw the bridge and walk across it and let people know.
So a tech founder, a community builder, an academic. I'm going to go ahead and label you a true Renaissance woman. What ties it all together? What ties all the work that you're doing together?
I would say what ties it all together would be my passion to spark inspiration in others. And so I know for me as a founder, me living my journey and just doing it and being it inspires others. But in this capacity and in my community building capacity, I literally have the privilege, which is a job, to inspire others. And so I think that's what really ties it together. It's just my passion to inspire.
So I could ask you 20 more questions. I want to make sure that everybody here has an opportunity to ask questions too, so we're going to do audience Q&A in just a minute. I feel like through all this, community building really is the theme. For you with your work at JumpStart and FELOH, and certainly Futureland, which Futureland 2.0 coming up in October, right?
That's right.
But this seems like a great time to shamelessly plug Pitch Cypher. So please talk about Pitch Cypher, which is in my opinion, one of the best events happening in Cleveland today.
Yes, more than happy to. So Pitch Cypher is a community-focused pitch event for minority tech founders. And I remember when I came up with the idea, I was so adamant about making sure that this was going to be something that brought people together, but really highlighted founders that don't really have the opportunity to showcase what they're doing and get their first win under their belts. And I remember coming up with the name, and you guys were like, I don't know about that, but it worked. And so Pitch Cypher is a series, and everyone should check it out. We just released our applications for it, so they are out. If you are a tech founder, if you know somebody that has a startup that they've been working on, definitely consider applying, and it is definitely a vibe.
I was just going to say, I was skeptical, and then when you said it's not an event, it's a vibe to me in that meeting, I was like, all right, we're doing it. Yeah, so definitely check out Pitch Cypher because it's just the coolest thing ever. There's DJs and there's food, and it's so much fun. So,
yes, and really good people.
Kudos to you for creating that and for bringing it here because it is excellent. So that brings us to some audience Q&A. I'm sure out there you have some questions, and Camille is here to answer them. So if you've got a question, raise your hand. Andrea's up here with the microphone. She's going to walk around the room. I see one in the very back right there, and we will make sure that we can get to you in a timely manner, and I will just keep vamping until she walks back there. And now we got a question.
All right. Yeah, I apologize for being late. I did not know this was in the church, right? So I'm driving around. I'm circling like, where is this? But all right. But no, love your story, love your post, and your what you bring to the community. and I don't want to say this wrong, but you kind of remind me of like onion powder or Lori's in like a black household, right? Like you're never gonna go to no black person's house and don't got Lori's seasoned salt or onion powder. That's impossible, right? You make every dish better because you're everywhere. You're like, I'm gonna just sprinkle a little bit of me here, ECDI, President's Council, which is beautiful. But what do you want your stamp to be? Is my biggest question.
Absolutely. I like that seasoning analogy. I'm gonna have to borrow that. But I would say there are a couple things, initiatives that I am personally working on that I feel are a part of my legacy. And one of those, and we didn't touch on this, but last year I started an organization called Tastemakers United. You all should check that out. But it is essentially a community building organization for Black, Indigenous, people of color, Hispanic, creatives, entrepreneurs. And the thing that I saw the most need was if we don't have a community within ourselves, it's really, really difficult for us to move and mobilize and collaborate with each other, open doors for each other. And so for me, being able to, through that vehicle, build, and I'm just seeing how, people are really being magnetized towards this community organization that literally just started last year. That for me, I feel is one of the strong parts of my legacy that I would love to continue to see grow. And it's really building a robust community of the movers and the shakers to support each other, and then eventually get investment and be a channel to make that happen for the community.
Excellent. Another question?
Okay, next question's over here.
And make sure you speak right into the microphone because we are recording this
Gotcha.
bad boy.
How do you feel that JumpStart has helped you the most?
That is a really good question, too. So I would say when I was just a client of JumpStart and connecting with my EIR really bent over backwards to make connections for me. And so I came in at a place in my journey where, I had a lot of just programming under my belt through these different accelerator programs and all that good stuff. But it was really my EIR's willingness to say, these are people that you need to connect with, and I'm going to connect you.
Right over here.
Good evening. So first of all, I want to say congratulations and thank you for sharing your story with us. It's very inspirational. So I wanted to know, what advice would you give an entrepreneur if they're in the fear state of mind?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I mean, I feel like we all, go in and out of that fear state of mind. And it's because we're human beings and that's just a part of the human experience. But I would say first and foremost, you really do have to feed yourself positive self-rhetoric, like literally every single day. And for me, one thing that I started doing maybe back in 2018, I think this is when I started doing this practice. I made, and it sounds so corny, but I made a self-affirmation. But I told myself I'm going to say it every time I brush my teeth, because that's something that I know I'm going to do every single day. And so now, still, every time I brush my teeth, it replays in my mind. And so I think really finding ways to have that self-positive talk and put it on repeat, like it programs your subconsciousness to like stream past those states of fear. Almost like when you lie to yourself, or if somebody lies to themselves, eventually they'll believe it. But if you tell yourself, like, I am a successful whatever it is, enough, you believe it and you become it. And it's just really important to, just drill it into every fiber of your being.
Awesome. Right here.
Camille, what has been one of your most impactful connections, either at JumpStart or on your journey?
Ooh, that's a really, really good question. So many impactful, just, okay, I really want to give a good answer to this. So I would say one of the most impactful connections came from, I would say it came from literally last year. Last year, I was at Black Tech Week. And at Black Tech Week, I met a lot of really, really amazing people. When I was there, I got the opportunity to meet one of the representatives from Procter & Gamble. And when I was, it was like, okay, cool, yeah, they're all in Cincinnati. That's cool. That's where Black Tech Week was. But now it kind of evolved into a relationship where we might have a partnership with them. And so it's, again, I think it's just like a testament to making sure that you're putting yourself out there in the right spaces and being open and not rushing whatever that relationship is supposed to be.
Over here.
Hello, great job, by the way. Jack from Pittsburgh, so don't hate me, everybody. So
We love tourist dollars in Cleveland.
that's right.
That's right. Yes.
So if you could build the perfect EIR or entrepreneur in residence, how would you build that perfect person to help this community and giving everything that you know?
Yes. I would say the perfect EIR, which, I strive to be, but, nobody's perfect. But I would say really leads with their heart and leads with empathy. I think that the perfect EIR is not going to speak from a position of authority, but more so speak from a position of relatability. And I think the perfect EIR also keeps it real. So like having a level of vulnerability is also just really important too, because, me as an entrepreneur, I know what it feels like to talk to somebody that, is kind of talking over me or talking past me or, in some respects talking down to me. And so I think people are more open to receiving when you meet them on a human to human level. And sometimes that requires vulnerability and just being open. That was a good question. Thank you.
All right, we've got time for just a couple more.
Hi, Camille. My name is Marissa, fellow founder here. You talked earlier about this journey being a lonely one. So I'm curious what you did to sort of build your kind of fellow entrepreneur community, other founders, and really like help bridge that gap from transitioning from your corporate life to now like your founder and entrepreneur life.
Yeah, I would say the first, I know I keep saying these accelerator programs, but really like some of these programs, I still talk to people in my cohort. Some people, they have pivoted. Some people have ended their business, but the relationship with other people that just get it. And like some of them are here in Cleveland. Some of them are elsewhere. Like for example, Marina, we were in G Beta together. And like us just relating to each other in certain ways allowed, me personally, I can't speak for Marina, but it really allowed me to feel like I was not alone. So being a part of those type of programs is super, super helpful. Just networking, going to different events and just connecting with like-minded people. And, just and being willing to, do the follow through, because, when you're out networking and it can be a little exhausting, it's like, I'm getting all these business cards, but just do the follow through. Like just send the email, let's get coffee, we're face to face now. And then that's how the kernel of the relationship can really spark. So lots of coffee dates.
Let's do one more right over here, and then just a reminder, we've got plenty of time after this conversation to stick around and network, and Camille will be here and I'm volunteering you now, but she'll be available for other questions.
Great story and great journey. And I know that entrepreneurs love to hear from other entrepreneurs where they've been and how they got there and the challenges and struggles. As you look ahead, the next version of yourself and your venture, what's the biggest challenge you're facing now?
Yeah, that's a really, really awesome question. And I think a part of it is what I'm doing now, and it's being more vocal about sharing my story. And believe it or not, I really don't like public speaking that much. I get anxious and have anxiety about doing things like this, but I think that is one part of who I am in this modality that I am supposed to share to spark inspiration. So I think that's just something that I know I'm gonna have to just swallow and continue to do that. And then also, I think another challenge for me also, building a team it's a beautiful thing, but it's also you have to really groom a good team, and you have to be honest. And when things are honestly not working, you have to probably not intentionally hurt people's feelings, but you have to really be honest about what's working, especially as it relates to who you have taking care of your baby, aka your startup. And so that is something I know that I'm going to have to, go through, and I've gotten my taste of it, and just to continue building myself as a leader.
Excellent question. All excellent questions. Thank you guys so much. And as I mentioned before, Camille's going to stick around, and you can chat her up after the event. Before we wrap up for the night, we have come to what is my favorite part of Founders Unfiltered, and that's our Fast Five. Camille, this is how it works. I've got 6 questions for you. You have to answer 5 of them. That's non-negotiable. If you answer all 6, you win a prize. Now, traditionally, these prizes have been terrible. I have given away the worst, just such random things. We started this as a we brought Founders Unfiltered back during COVID as a podcast in my basement on Zoom. And 2 years later and 21 episodes later, we finally got a good prize. Before we do that, I have to shamelessly pitch something myself, because I am turning my hosting duties away from Founders Unfiltered a little bit, and I have started this new show on YouTube and on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts and on iHeartRadio and on Odyssey, I think is that other logo. Wherever you get your podcasts, we'll say that, called Small Business Big Conversations. It's kind of the same thing, but I'm talking to inspiring small business owners from around the region about their journeys from starting their business and growing it on the small business side. Because of that, I'm not going to be the host of Founders Unfiltered anymore. So, if you answer all 6 questions, you can be the new host of Founders Unfiltered.
Bet, let's go.
All right. The stakes are high.
Okay.
All right, question number 1. If you could pick a celebrity to be your business mentor, who would it be?
Probably Issa Rae. Yes, final answer.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to elaborate. I was waiting, but that's
Oh,
cool.
no, I think she's really cool. I think I relate to her. I think we would be best friends.
What is the worst? I know you love giving advice. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
Whew. Okay, the worst piece of advice I've ever been given, probably it was from some investor who, one, didn't understand what FELOH was, but he told me to build a website. And
I mean, that's important. Look, I'm
it
a
is
digital
important, but
marketing
we already
guy.
had
That's
one. Yes. So, yes, that was probably the worst piece of advice.
That's the only way. Just build a website. That's your product.
That was it.
What's your current favorite Cleveland establishment? You rep Cleveland hard. What's your favorite place in Cleveland right now?
Oh, this is so difficult. So many cool, good places. Probably, okay, so if we're not doing non-food, so I really like Made in Clee. which is one of our clients, but it is essentially, and if you all are, locals, they took over the City Buddha location, and it's like from vendors that all like are from Cleveland. So it's a really, really cool shop on Coventry, and I am a fan.
What's the best book or even blog post that you've read in the past year?
Best book or blog post that I have read in the past year. Let's see. Probably it would have to be the Mary Magdalene manuscript. Very, very, very transformational.
Excellent. What advice do you have for me to deal with these laugh lines and crow's feet?
Oh, that's a really good question. So, number one, you need to drink your collagen. Okay, so there are plenty of collagen supplements out there. Number two, there are these really awesome things, and I want to get them on FELOH one day, but they are wrinkle patches, and you literally sleep with patches on your face, and they do work. Collagen patches.
I already got the Breathe Right strip going on at night. I don't know if I'm just got all this stuff on my face. All right, well, hang on. I'm going to prep this microphone here with a little bow because I feel like you're going to answer all 6 questions, and I'm going to have to give this show away. What's your least favorite startup buzzword and why?
Least favorite startup buzzword. Probably, it's like, it's a hyphenated one, but high potential. High potential, I think that's my least favorite because it's a very top-down word. It's a very judgmental word, and I think that any founder that is working in alignment with what they're supposed to do, and they're not moving through their ego, and they're moving through, like, this is what I'm supposed to do, it's a high-potential business. So it's my least favorite.
Well, that's 6 answers to all 6 questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new host of Founders Unfiltered, Camille Heard.
Oh my God.
That's your gift.
Well, thank you. But we're not done quite yet because I got Fast 5 for you. So, before you're out of here, let me
go back to the slide.
Let me ask you a couple questions. And I do not have a formal Well, no, you can have this FELOH hairband.
All right,
That's what you get. Okay, so first question I have for you.
So stupid.
What hill are you willing to climb on and die to make your point every single time?
Oh, man. It's like the Appalachian Mountains. Boy, like, is there like a certain topic?
Any topic. You are proving your point, and you will always have to prove this point.
That you got to leave your ego at the door.
I like it.
That's in entrepreneurship. That's in anything. That's in parenting. That's in coaching. That's you got to leave it at the door.
Got you. I like that answer. So next one. I know you love Cleveland, but this is really going to show us who you are. East side or west side?
Oh, west side, all the way.
Okay.
I live about as far west side as it can be, but west side all the way.
Okay. Now, next question. What do you spend way too much time on?
Working on anything. Like, I can't not, so I am a previous small business owner. I sold my company last year. I started in 2016 and sold it last year. It was great. I was always working, and I was working at JumpStart full-time. You know this story. You are living this. So I sold that company and thought, oh, now I'll spend more time with my family. Now I'm like the board of every one of my kids' sports things, and I can't like sit still. It's just I'm just always in front of a screen and moving.
Okay, well that leads me to question 4. So, what's your next venture?
Oh man, I don't have to answer all these because there's no real prize here. Yeah, so just real quickly, so the company that I started was Brewboat Cleveland. It's a party boat tour company on the Cuyahoga River. We started with one boat in 2016. I grew it to a fleet by the time I sold it. I am still a captain. I became a licensed maritime captain as a part of owning this business. So I still work for those guys in the summertime, and they're adding 2 more boats. So quick plug there, because the guys that bought it from me are awesome, and they're continuing to grow. My next venture is related to nightlife in Cleveland. That's as far as I'm going to say right now, because when I started the brew boat, my wife and I were, I'll never forget this, we were sitting at Swenson's, and I'm just like destroying this galley boy. And we were talking about it, and I was like on the fence. Am I going to like take out personal loans and risk a bunch of stuff to like buy this big boat to bring it here and start this thing? And my wife said to me, if you don't do this, then somebody else is going to, and you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. The other idea that I have that I want to start does not exist in Cleveland, but I don't want it to before I do, so I'm not going to say anything else.
Okay, no, I like it. And last question, what advice do you have for me as the new Founders Unfiltered host?
Oh, man. So I think don't be nervous, because you are fantastic in front of a crowd and on a microphone. Yeah, keep that. She's great.
Oh, thank y'all.
Do your research, obviously. And I don't even need to tell you this, but be generally interested in the people that you're talking to, which you already are. Because we get some really inspiring entrepreneurs that come up here and do this, present company included, and it's just an awesome thing to do alongside all the other things that we do day in and day out on our regular work at JumpStart. This is like such a fun thing to be able to get up and do. So congratulations to you. I'm really happy to hand off the microphone to you, and I will let you close it out as the new host.
Well, yes, thank you so much for your advice. And thank you all so much for coming to check out Founders Unfiltered, to see me. And we're definitely going to be doing this again throughout the year. So please join us. Right now, it's just about networking. So make sure you get your drink ticket. And if you are an entrepreneur, definitely plug into JumpStart. So we're all about capital services and connections, and really serving you all to make sure that your visions come to fruition. So please stay plugged in, and now it's time to network. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody.